The Crusades. This started in about 1095 and ends in the mid of 13th century. The causes of Crusades. The Crusades started in 1095 CE. The first and the immediate cause was the speech made by Pope Urban II. In that speech, Pope Urban II referred to the Christian as the noble race of the Franks. He encouraged Christians to join the armies to get Jerusalem from the Muslims. And the second reason was the economic motives, as most of the Crusaders that left Europe to fight the Muslims were actually able to form the kingdoms and acquire the wealth found in those lands. That's why the many groups of Crusaders often quarreling among themselves over rule of places when they conquered their cities. There was a geopolitical reason as well. Muslims were weak at that time politically. They were scattered in Egypt, Syria, Baghdad, and other parts of the world. The Crusaders were against everyone who didn't follow their religion and if it didn't look like them. This included Muslims, Jews, and even dark-skinned Christians, all of whom were attacked and murdered by them. They even sacked the city of Constantinople, which was ruled by Eastern Church, the Byzantine Church. That was not a Muslim city. And they crusaded the people before the first crusade occurred. How they crusade people? The People's Crusade started before the first crusade, as I told you, that more than 15,000 people joined the army led by the Walter and then later on Peter the Hermit. And most of the Crusaders took off to Constantinople, from where they planned to go to Jerusalem. However, Peter the Hermit and his advisor hadn't paid any attention to how they were going to feed this huge army. So as a result, wherever the Crusaders went, they ate up the land like a mass of hungry locusts. Furthermore, wherever these Crusaders went, they plundered the land and they burned the cities and slaughtered the peoples. All of the murdered people were innocent. The Crusaders then went beyond Constantinople and started their looting of Christian lands again. They were also constantly arguing amongst themselves, and many of them broke the main group. Now Peter the Hermit went back to Constantinople to request supplies and support, supplies of food and other things. But before he could return the Muslim lands, Muslims got an opportunity to get here and they attacked the Crusades swiftly, killing most of the invaders. After that, the first crusade occurred. When these happened, then the first of 5 armies of Crusaders gathered. Godfrey of the Bolian arrived first, then soon after him, Bohemond of Taranto arrived, and after him the Count Ramald IV of Toledo, and after that the Count Robert II arrived, and the 5th one was the Duke Robert. These 5 armies together attacked Muslim lands. They attacked on different Muslim cities. They captured the Antakya and around about all the Muslims who were inside this city were killed. After that, these Crusaders attacked Marratun Noman, a city, famous city, where the Crusaders slaughtered 100,000 people, and they don't have any kind of merciness. A year later, the Crusaders attacked Jerusalem, and now they were feeling some kind of uh, uh, they with killing the Muslims was very good for their soul, and they murdered as many as they could in the Jerusalem. They killed as many Muslims as they can. No one was given mercy. Old or young, sick or healthy, male or female, all were beheaded and killed by the invading Crusaders. The city was full of blood that reached up to the knees of the soldiers and up to the horses' bridles. The Muslims were forced to throw themselves from the tops of the towers and buildings, and they were burned alive. And if you go, the list goes on. The Crusaders climbed up to the top of the Temple of Solomon, from where they massacred hundreds and thousands of Muslims. The slaughter was only paused when the Crusaders gave thanks to their Lord. Then it was continued with as much as before. This was the first crusade. After the massacre in Jerusalem, it ended. The second crusade started in 1144 CE. In 1144 CE, there was a major, very famous leader, Imaduddin Zengi. So, in his leadership, the Muslims captured Edessa. This city was vital for the safety of the Frankish holdings, as it guarded their back door. When the news of the fall of the Edessa spread throughout Europe, and a second crusade was called by Pope Eugenius III, who was the Pope at that time. So the Holy Roman Emperor Conrad III and the French King Louis VII joined it. However, they failed to capture Damascus and they returned to their homes. But the Crusaders had decided to attack Damascus, and they failed to do so. Then, after 30 years, in 1177 CE, a great leader of the Muslim, whose name is known as Salahuddin Ayyubi, attacked Palestine and conquered Gaza and Ascalon. At that time, King Baldwin IV, the ruler of Jerusalem, tried to put up a resistance, but couldn't face the attacks of Salahuddin and retreated. After his defeat, Baldwin IV asked the ruler of Karnak, Renald, for assistance. Renald sent appeals to the Crusaders for help. They agreed and started sending their troops to Karnak to take revenge of Baldwin's defeat. This time, however, Salahuddin was defeated, but soon after, in 1179 CE, Salahuddin went with a large force to fight against the Franks. A fierce battle followed, in which Salahuddin was victorious. The next year, Baldwin IV and Salahuddin made a 2-year truce. According to the terms of the truce, both parties couldn't attack each other's territories. But as you know, in the history, they broke their treaties. So Renald, the ruler of Karnak, attacked Muslim lands as well as the caravans that were passing by him. He also looted many caravans that were going for Hajj. At this, Salahuddin was in courage again, and he attacked Renald's fort. Then there was another 4-year truce that was made and signed by both Salahuddin and Baldwin IV. The Salahuddin and his army went back home, but trouble awaited the Muslims. Soon after the signing of the truce, Baldwin died, and Renald disregarded this truce and attacked a Muslim caravan and arrested the traders. Despite the many warnings and appeals to stop his cruelties, Renald went on. He later looted a caravan of Muslim pilgrims and killed most of them. So now Salahuddin couldn't be stopped. He attacked Kerak, occupied it, and appointed an army to guard the Muslim empire, Muslim pilgrims. So the Crusaders were disturbed by Salahuddin's increasing power and success, and after that they united all of their forces to attack the Muslims. Salahuddin Ayyubi camped outside the Tiberade, and this was about 15 miles away from the armies of the Crusaders. After a siege of about 6 days, he occupied the city. When the news reached the Crusaders, they called a meeting. It was decided that the Crusaders would go and attack the Muslims instead of just defending themselves. They camped at night in Hittin, sure of an easy victory of the next day. However, a few of them knew about the skills of Salahuddin and his bravery, and didn't know that they were going to be utterly defeated by him. So early of the next morning, the Crusaders were awakened. When they awoke, and at that time Salahuddin attacked. The Muslims fell on the Crusaders with full fury. Although the Crusaders fought and with full force, by the evening the Crusaders had been defeated. The battle then continued to the next day, and at the next day by noon, the battle was in favor of the Muslims. The Muslims attacked and arrested many of them. The Muslims had won the war. With the victory at Hittin, Salahuddin now set out for other areas, not allowing the Crusaders to recover and to get reinforced. Within 2 months, he had conquered Acre, Naplu, Jericho, Ramla, Caesarea, and Asruf, Jafaf, and Beirut, etc. These all cities he conquered, and he also conquered Ascalon. After some time, in 1187 CE, Salahuddin finally conquered Jerusalem. However, his conquest was not like what the Crusaders had done in 1099 CE, 88 years back, when they killed all the Muslims. Now, not one Christian was harmed. All were allowed to stay or leave the city at their own will. They were also allowed to take their weapons and property with them. Salahuddin even arranged for their traveling. The tribute that was asked for the Christians, if they wanted to leave the city, was 10 gold coins per man, and 5 gold coins per woman, and 1 single coin for a child. And it was not compulsory. So Salahuddin and his brother themselves paid the tribute for about 17,000 people. In addition to that, a gate of the city was allocated for the many poor soldiers who couldn't pay that tribute. They can go without paying anything. And in this battle, there was many prisoners of war. Many Crusaders had been arrested during this war. When their wives and sisters and mothers appealed for their release, they were all released. Many people who were poor were given money for traveling expenses as well. In addition, they were provided with the mules to carry their loads. So you can see how he was treating them. Many Crusaders that left to Christian states were treated cruelly by the rulers there. For example, many Crusaders left to Antiochia, the nearest Christian city from Jerusalem. There the ruler, Prince Bohemian, not only denied them hospitality but stripped them. They were forced to come back to the Muslim lands, where they were treated with the great sympathy and kindness. In addition, out of respect for the Christians' feeling, Salahuddin didn't enter the city until all those who wished to leave the city left. Salahuddin then conquered Antakya and its surrounding cities. He also conquered Karak and the same place from where Renald used to attack on Muslim pilgrims. After some time, there is the Third Crusade. The reason is that after the fall of Jerusalem, this news sent a wave of fury throughout the Europe. Pope Gregory VIII declared a Third Crusade. The kings of Europe, realizing that Salahuddin couldn't be dealt by only one or two armies, they called themselves to take revenge. All of them allied each other. Many European kings took part, including Richard the Lionheart and Frederick, Philip II, and King Gary Lucian, who had broken the promise with the Muslims. He had the promise to not attack on the Muslim, but he also participated. This crusade was called by the famous historian Edward Gibbon as the most stupid and savage refuse of people. All the Crusaders achieved was the city of Acre, which was only conquered after a siege of 2 years and the death of about 1,020,000 Crusaders. When the city was finally acquired, a treaty was signed in which the Muslims had to pay 200,000 gold coins within 1 month, and the Holy Cross was to be returned to the Crusaders. Otherwise, the 2,700 captives, the prisoners of war inside the city, would become slaves. Since Salahuddin couldn't pay the price because the distances were far between Muslim lands and he didn't have enough resources to pay it, all the Muslims were massacred. The Crusaders tried to conquer other cities after it, but they failed. At the end, many disputes arose between the Christians themselves. And Richard the Lionheart was troubled because the disturbances at home. Finally, the Crusaders left, acquiring only the city of Acre, which was to be retaken by the Muslims in about 100 years later. These were the major crusades. There are some other crusades as well. For example, Christian crusade that took place in 12 Common Era CE. A French boy speaking in the manner of Peter the Hermit leads several thousand of his young fellow followers. The young crusaders arrived at Marseilles and expecting the water for them to open so that they could walk to the Holy Land. However, most of the crusaders were sold to slave dealers by the merchants. This crusade was a great embarrassment to the church. Another crusade, the Fourth Crusade, also known as the Siege of Constantinople, that took place in 1204 CE, that was also a total failure. Instead of fighting the Muslims to get Jerusalem, they ended up fighting themselves. And they sacked the city of Constantinople and did a great amount of looting in it. So, we can say in a conclusion, we conclude on it that the history of the Crusades is filled with the mercilessness of the Crusaders and the kind-heartedness of the Muslims. The Muslims were massacred everywhere the Crusaders arrived, while the Christians were treated kindly by the Muslims. The Crusaders achieved the main purpose of the Crusades and kept Jerusalem for a while, just for a while. But the spirit of the people seen before the first Crusade took place before the first Crusade was never matched again. Later on, all of the cities taken by the Christians were to be taken back by the Muslims. The last city that was taken by the Muslims was Acre. It was taken in 1291 CE, as I discussed earlier. The other crusades didn't achieve their purposes, and a few of them were not even against Muslims, but against themselves. such as the sack of Constantinople in 1254 CE and the Albigensian Crusade, that was nothing more than a suicidal debate among the fellow Christians in 1209 CE that occurred. So in short, we can say that the Crusades acquired what they wanted for a short while, but then they lost all of it to the Muslim and instead made one another an enemy. So, what are the impacts of Crusades? In these Crusades, there was a rapid contact of two wildly different civilizations affected one another significantly. Muslim doesn't get any kind of don't get any kind of benefit from them because at that time Muslims were much civilized, but the Christian got many benefits. For example, owing the rich tradition of the Arabs and their enormous cultural heritage, it was obvious that European Renaissance had their roots in much of the impact traced back to the times of Crusades. If you go to the success or the rising behind the European Renaissance, there is the Crusade, and Europeans imitated the art of war, cavalry, military organization of the strategic and arrangement of army from the Arabs. So they got many benefits from these Crusades. But Muslims, due to the good leadership of Salahuddin Ayyubi and Imaduddin Zangi, they got victorious.